Oh, my Lord. How is everybody doing? How was that for an intro?
Oh, beautiful.
Not at all what we were expecting. It's been a while since we've done this, and holy crap, I forgot how many little things we got to do.
Oh, yeah.
So we had an issue with the labs, so hopefully you guys can hear us now. If
Hello.
not, please just yell at me. We'll get it figured out. Let's see who's here. I want to say hi to everybody. Oh, I got to turn the volume off on the iMac. Oh, this is one of those times I miss Hao and Tao, but they are stuck in Taipei. So, how's everybody been doing? We've been doing good.
It's been a while.
Although we are on lockdown, here in LA, it's been rather quiet. But it's a good time to get a lot of stuff done. And we've got a lot of stuff done, actually.
Yeah.
We had a ton of fun doing the probably not re-record. That was cool, finding some old tunes. We have one more in the works, working on a special guest bass player. So I'm not going to say anything just yet. But it was really fun finding an old tune and then kind of documenting the re-record process. It was actually fun finding a tune that the drums didn't make me cry when I heard.
It was actually pretty good. Considering it was what? Almost 10 years ago?
2009 or 2010 when that was written.
Oh, crazy.
So holy crap. But it was cool. Audio's working? All right, good. I got the iPad right here, so I'm going to try to keep an eye on that. Everything. Let's see if I can make this bigger so I can actually see what's going on here. So here's what we got going on. We figure everyone's kind of stuck at home, getting ants in their pants, wanting to get out and do something. We hadn't done any broadcasts in a while. And we're ramping up the video a lot, actually, over these next couple weeks. There's this kind of re-record thing made us think of some new ideas and some stuff that we could do. And this is a great time to do it, obviously. And we figure some of it we're going to broadcast because I miss the interaction, and I think he does too. And then some of it will be on demand. So what we're going to do today, our goal today is we have this track that we found in one of the mini folders on the hard drive. And we're gonna re-record it, and this is gonna be the kind of our working track for some of these ideas that we're gonna do coming up. So we're gonna do drums and bass today. So we have a rhythm section, and we're only gonna DI the bass, and Ernesto's gonna play bass. I'm gonna attempt to play drums. It's been a while, but I'm sure it'll suck. And I'm not fixing anything, so you're gonna hear all my mistakes and everything. But we're gonna have this, and we're gonna use this track as our kind of a base setting to do all these new ideas that we're talking about. There's going to be a lot of guitar stuff coming up. The re-recording and the reamping kind of sparked some ideas. Ernesto recently picked up a new Unidyne, not you, it's new to him, a Unidyne 3 and a 421. I've got the PR30s here. We've got the old 57. So we're going to do some things with those mics to compare and see how they differ. Record, and we're going to use this song to do that. We may even do some drums, especially with that Unidyne on the snare, because that is a bitchin' snare mic.
Yeah.
Although it's a snare mic today, I want to go over too once we get to that point.
We're going to do some direct box comparison or reamp.
Yes. And that's another thing. Ernesto, you just picked up, it's the Radial JCR. I just bought one of the DIY recording, DIY recording, one of the kits from them that should be here sometime soon. So I'm actually going to film the build of that. And then we're going to have, I'm not going to call it a shootout because I kind of don't like that term because that implies that we're looking for one that is the be-all, end-all. And sometimes there is one that's the be-all, end-all. But we want to see how all these sound different from our $50 DIY to our $200 Radial to whatever we got the Little Labs, Red Eye. I'm going to try to borrow another Radial from someone else that's a different variation. Because we do so much reamping here, and I know even for you guys at home, that's a great way to get parts, is you can sit and do everything and get the parts down and get DI, and then you can go reamp and take your time getting tones. It actually makes things so much easier because you don't have to have a player sitting there playing it, getting exhausted. You can just put it on a loop and have the DI pumping out to the amp. I think you kind of like doing it that way now, don't you?
And then the idea of doing reamping for drums, right?
Yes, the drum reamping. So we've seen that video that for the re-record, and that's something I've started doing a lot for a lot of people. So that is something that I have some really super affordable packages. If you guys are at home, like you're in your bedroom studio, you're in your garage studio, basement, wherever the hell it is, and you want to add some real room depth that's not just a reverb, hit me up. I'll send you the link to where that is on the website. I've got 3 different packages I'm doing, a single pair of stereo, 2 pair of stereo, and a mono plus 2 pair of stereo. So there's some different things depending on what you want to try. It's affordable. We will Skype in and do it together. I've been doing it that way. I love it because at least we can converse in real time. We can see each other, and then I can pipe audio right off the board right into your home studio. And that's a lot of fun, too. Next best thing to being in the room personally with someone. So that is available. But what we were wanting to do with this track is we've used a few things over the past few years way too much. You've heard some of the King Crazy songs like No Class, What's in the Name.
Yep. Overrated.
Yeah. Over and over. I didn't want to use those again. We were kind of bored with them. We had the Microphone Monday thing where I ended up using that song for a couple other videos. So we wanted something new that people won't get, we at least get a couple months out of before we need another one, but that allows us to do all these guitar ideas. We're going to talk about some doubling ideas guitar-wise too, because I've been cooking up some things I want to try. And then I watched the ZZ Top. If you guys haven't watched this, check out the ZZ Top documentary on Netflix. It's freaking awesome. Those guys rule. Yeah. But there's one thing that their engineer did on the early records and something I want to try when he did some doubling. I thought it was really cool. And then I got stuck watching some Zakk Wylde stuff recently, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, he used an SPX90 in there? Oh, so we're gonna experiment with some things, and this is gonna be the song that we do it with, at least for a little while until we all get bored, and then we'll record something new.
Yeah.
The fun part for you guys is neither one of us know this song very well. We did a quick run-through about 5 minutes before the broadcast, so we have a basic idea. But like I said, this was a song that was stuck in a folder from a long time ago. Not quite as long ago as probably not. But we had some drums actually done in a scratch guitar, but the tempo was too slow. So we sped it up a few clicks, kept the scratch guitar. I'm going to track drums, and then we're going to track the bass. And also, this way you can see the bass and know exactly for any videos going forward, we may do some other reamping with all these reamp boxes with bass and some other, ideas. Yeah. I'm sure you guys got ideas on stuff you want to see. And, we're going to listen. So if you got ideas, please let me know. And actually, if you can even send me a direct message with some of that stuff so I don't miss it in the comments in case I do miss it. Because we're looking for ideas on what you want to know, too, not just us going crazy here doing stuff by ourselves. So let's see who's... You have anything you want to add? I'm going to see who's...
No,
I talk a lot if you guys didn't know that already.
No, it's just the proliferation of all this online stuff and people sending files back and forth. And we got the facilities here, so reamping, and you did a test the other day. You just ran drums, through the PAs that you had, and it was like, holy cow, it's like adds that extra thing that you probably don't get from plugging, maybe.
Yeah. You could do it with, there's some good reverb plugins for sure, but it is a different thing when you stick mics in a room and have some compression, and you have it's so loud in the room, man. It's like standing next to Chad Smith playing drums. It's insanely loud, and that's a huge part of it. And plus, we can dial things in a bit in real time. Katie, I see your question about the reamp. So she says, when you do that reamp shootout, can you show your settings when you send it out of your DAW? I'm having the hardest time getting a reamp to actually sound decent compared to a mic on an amp. Yes, that's actually a good point. So when we do that, we'll go through the whole process, not just what happens when it's out to the amp. We'll go through the levels coming out and maybe even adjust those levels to see where things are too low, too loud, that sort of thing. So see, perfect. I got to take a screenshot of this right now. Bam. All right, I won't lose that one. But, yeah, we talked about the Trident. Yes. Who else is there? Is the audio low? Michael, I see you saying it's low. Let me know. We'll try to boost it. Hold on. Let me take a look real quick. All right. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, okay, we'll turn up.
Yeah, crank that C1.
It's been a while. Part of our technical difficulty right before we went on was our labs not working. One, I didn't have enough batteries for one, and it's too much time to go stand in line. So
Yeah.
I apologize if it's low. I know when I start playing drums and stuff, we'll be able to hear it, but we will. And out of
the worst sentence.
Mike, yes, the out of tune guitar. If that question is related to the ZZ Top thing, yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And the worst question you can get as an audio engineer or statement, it's like, do you hear this? Nope. Do you hear this? Nope. Can you hear it now? Nope.
We
What
do
about
that
now?
over
Nope.
and over. It was me on the other side of the glass, and it looked like this. And that's it.
Oh, it's the worst thing you can hear.
Rockin' Robbie in Jersey. Got the Behringer board. You're right. I did say, hey, use what you got. The best gear you can ever have is the gear you already have. You know, we all want more. I've just realized I'm going to be broke the rest of my life because I'm going to spend it all on freaking gear. So let's see. Definitely one for the upcoming video would be seeing how those movable baffles. Oh, okay. That's a good idea. You know, I tried that. This is, again, from Katie. Man, you got some good ideas today. She's talking about the baffles,
The effect.
the ones behind the kit on the side, how that affected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried that once a long time ago. It didn't go so well, but I think I've thought it through a little better now, and we will do that.
Yeah. I mean, we heard it the other day. It's the closer you put them, the more it deadens the whole drum sound, period.
Yeah, and we'll figure out a way to do it in real time. We'll do a broadcast because that way you can relay to us kind of what you're hearing, and we can make adjustments. I did do in my Minimal Miking Volume 2, there is a section where we did that. At the very end, the last setup we did, we made it as dead and dry as possible, kind of like it would be if you're in a small room that was dead. And I was amazed at how much it's changed the drum sound with all those baffles. So, yes, I'm going to take another screenshot. Hey, talk more into the mic.
Oh,
No,
more,
yeah, but
more in,
yeah,
more
here,
in.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, you can adjust that out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Just for the record, he does know that it's
Yeah.
not a side address mic. It's just where the mics are.
I
It's
know.
not the
It's
most
I
convenient
feel like
thing.
I'm a FBI questioning room. You know.
Luke, I am your father.
It's like
All right, so what else? Oh,
this
man,
is
that's
terrible. I'll hold it in my hand. God damn it.
Man, it's great to see so many of you guys. This is super cool. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope everybody's, enjoying things as much as they possibly can given the situation going on everywhere in the freaking world right now. I know we're doing our best here. There's a lot of music coming your way. We're working on a lot of things, and I have a couple artists I'm finishing some mixes up for now, too, that are getting ready to release stuff. So at the very least, this has been a very productive time for music. All right, so now Michael's the one who called out the side address. I know, sometimes,
This is a special 58.
I'm a little frazzled still. I'm trying to calm down from the crazy start so I can actually go play drums and hopefully be in time.
If you ever want to do something like this and you say, hey, let's do it 3 hours early to set everything up, 3 hours is not enough.
Double it.
It's amazing. Count about 5 to 6 hours, because if you have to set up the drums, these actually were set up before, so we didn't have to put up the mics, but all the little things, right? Signal flow, no. All the things that go out to the video, right? To the broadcast. That is amazing how much time it takes.
And we are on our own. We don't have good old How and Tao. So if something is a little off, please let us know so we can try to adjust it.
Yep.
For everybody. I was just going to say something I forgot.
Yeah.
Which is probably good for everybody.
Well, and obviously, we're gonna be managing all this, so sometimes you'll see the back of us or whatever while we change screens.
Yeah.
So don't freak out. This
We-
is not pro level,
Well,
entertainment Universal
it
Studios.
will be, though,
right?
because that's how we do things. But we just
But on the video
upgraded this
side.
system actually to 1080. We just
Yeah.
put in some new Blackmagic hardware. This is our first time trying everything out. Hopefully as glitch-free as possible, although it didn't start out very good.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we get to some freaking playing here, man? So here's the setup.
Yes.
We'll go through all this as the ambulance goes by, or fire trucks. The drums. I'll do this in here. Let's see. Is the we still got the GoPro? Oh yeah, the GoPro's not close enough. I have all the drums going through the Trident. So what I've got. Let's see if I can pull this. I'm just gonna go handheld for a second. I'm a drummer. I'm not used to getting a hold of mic. And people are smart not to give it to me. So I have all the drums. We have 14 tracks. Kick. I'm not quite doing as big of setup as some of the other times because I was worried about the broadcast being a little bit too difficult the first time while he and I are doing this on our own. So I have an in and out, and I am doing one thing that I do all the time now is I sum those together over here on the bus 1 of the console. And on that bus, I have a DBX 160X going into a Trident A-Range EQ feeding the Rupert Neve 542 tape emulator. And I'm kind of that's kind of my normal setup on a kick now. It's versatile, a lot of different styles that way, and it just sounds kind of cool. The snare, usually I have 2 mics today. We're just doing one, and I'm going to cover that mic because it's a new one that I've been using for mic parts that Matt made, and it's really cool. And I'm going to do a whole separate video on that too, so I actually have time to talk about it. That is, so the top snare is just going in its own channel. We have a little bit of, actually no compression on that. We're not using it.
Nope.
So the 160X is not on. Bottom snare, typical. Just got a pair of toms. Actually, let me cut over to the kit while I'm going through this so you can see what it looks like. I got to go over here. I am now the switch operator. So let me go to camera 6. There we go. So that's the kit that I'm going with today. We've got the Ludwig kick, the 24 by 14 bass drum. I've got my old Pearl Forum toms, 13 and 16. And then I think I'm using the Superphonic snare today. And when I get out there, I'll go over the mics really quick. But that's going to be the drum setup for today. Come back in here. Oh, hey, the GoPro's on too, so you can see it. And then I have the overheads, which are Mini K87s from Roswell. We can talk more about that. If you have any questions, let me know. I usually use the 47s or something, but the 87s sound kind of cool. They're a very different vibe. So I'm just kind of getting used to them, getting to know them. The next thing is hats, obviously ATM 450. The mono room is the Red 12 from 12-gauge mics. I'm kind of in love with those things. So I use them a lot for sometimes stereo mics, but I use it on a room, and sometimes I even run a parallel with it and crush it with the Valley People Dynamite. Not doing that today, leaving it uncompressed. Then the good old 4080s on the mid rooms with the overstayer compressor, and then the big rooms are a pair of Roswell Pro Audio Delphos going through the Heritage Audio Successor, which I'm getting to use for a while, and I love that thing. I have a video coming out on that too. I'm going to do something next week with that because that thing is really freaking cool. Is that it? And then the bass, what we have, I know we're gonna do bass after drums, so he can focus on one, but it is the Warwick rock bass, that 5-string that you've had for a long time.
Yeah.
This bass sounds amazing. We are going to go direct through the overstayer channel amp, and I have a little bit of compression from the WA76 just to even it. I'm not doing anything crazy because I want to leave it as natural as possible. So down the road, if we have any ideas for reamping or other recording ideas, or you guys have some questions with that, we have a usable bass track to try to do some of those experiments with. So let's see if I've missed anything. If I'm talking too fast, I have had a lot of coffee today. Just tell me. Tracy, welcome. All right. It's time to do some recording, I think.
Yep.
I do have another mic set up out there by the kit. I'll do another one so I can actually talk, although you're probably sick of hearing me talk at this point, and I don't blame you. Ernesto, I know when I talk too much because he just rolls his eyes.
Yeah. No. So you'll see. I mean, you're probably gonna go through the setting over there.
We'll do a quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do a quick thing. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll take the iPad with me. What are your thoughts on the Roswell? Alexis, love the Roswell mics. I mean, that's the easy answer is I love them, and I use all of them all the time. I would say the Delphos are my go-tos from them. Those get used on almost every session. Room mics for drums, they just do a fantastic job of capturing at least this room and the sound I like. They're also not harsh on cymbals, which is great because sometimes I like to use a lot of compression. Like, I'm going to get my head out of the... Hey, you want to turn the key off on that and get rid of the picture-in-picture for a minute? But I like the Delphos because they aren't harsh with cymbals. It's a very smooth top end, so when you add some compression or even boosting a little on the high, it doesn't get that really nasty sound that drives me crazy. The Mini K47's probably one of my favorite set of overhead mics that I've ever used. Not only are they affordable, but they, for a large diaphragm microphone, they have a surprisingly fast transient response, which is great. That's something you get from a small diaphragm condenser. Usually has much. They're faster, so the transient response is a little nicer. Where a large diaphragm, a little slower, it smooths them out a hair, which usually I kind of like. But getting in that middle ground with those mini Ks are great. Also, not harsh with cymbals. And that's a big thing for me is harshness with cymbals, which is why I have so many Peisties, and we switch a lot of drummers that come in. We end up using a lot of my cymbals for that reason alone. The Mini K87s, I'm still getting to know them. I like I don't want to make a direct comparison, and I think this is worthy of its own video to talk just about the difference of microphones and why me or you or someone else might buy them, or how to add the next type of mic to your locker. But if I'm going to compare the Mini K47 and 87, which is a question I've gotten a fair amount and have failed to answer, so I'll go on record now. I would call the 87 a more vintage sounding, smoother. I'm not going to say, I'm hesitant to use the word dark, but compared to the 47, it is a little darker. It is a little thicker, where the Mini K is a little bit punchier, which is why I like it on overheads. But say I'm doing a guitar track where the 87 might give me a smoother, rounder response than the 87 would give me a smoother, rounder response than the 47. So, for instance, you got someone in, you're a Telly, you've got a Fender, which can be very pokey sounds when you put those two things together, right? That is a time that I may pick something like the Mini K87 that I know is going to be a little smoother with that transient and help me control some of the picking on the guitar. I can always dial in, top end, or pull some thickness in the low or the low mids if I need to. Where if I want something that is going to be pokier and come out more, maybe I use something like the Mini K47, so it does. I'm using that mic purposely for what it does great. If that makes any sense, long-winded, I will do something more full on that soon. All right, let me read one more question here, and then I'm going to go attempt to play some freaking drums.
Hey, they have a question here about a mono overhead.
Where's that?
The last one. When you place a mono overhead or a mono in front of kit mic, do you try to place it the same distance from the overheads?
I'm assuming that means when you have a mono and you have overheads, right? Am I reading that correctly? Same distance from the... Okay, yeah, the mono front of kit mic, yes, I measure that off the overheads. So that way I could pull those three mics up and have a drum sound, and they're all in phase. You may have to check your... I got to start using this. We need to all start calling this correct. It's when the phase button on the Trident or your recording gear, that's actually a polarity flip, not a phase flip. We'll go more, and that's a rant for later. But yeah, I would have it measured, that front kit measured with the overheads, and I would flip the polarity just to make sure, because you're going to have the diaphragm, the mic's facing a different angle. When you have three overheads, it's a bit different ball game. If you want to use them the same, you kind of have to get them equidistant from each other and the main object you're trying to do. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I throw up a mono overhead, not intending to ever use it with the stereos. It's a completely different vibe. Then it doesn't matter. You put it where it sounds best. What are your thoughts on the warm audio gear? Okay. Someone on Instagram sent me a message about this. The way I look at all of this gear, and Ernesto, you correct me if what you think too, is to me, I don't care how much it costs if it gets a sound I want. These are paintbrushes, they're colors. I like these WA-76s on some things. I don't like them on others. As far as being the real thing, they're in the ballpark. I'm specifically talking about these. I think the real ones and even the hairballs, which I am going to add at some point, are more versatile than these are. But I do like these I use them on vocals a lot, acoustic guitars. I don't actually use them on bass all that much, although I am today, because I don't necessarily like the low end on them, or at least these that we have here. It can be a little flappy. With this bass, it actually worked out really nice because this bass already tight down there. The microphones, I haven't got to use a ton of them yet. From what I have used, let's just say that I'm not necessarily in a hurry to add any here. I heard some great things recorded with them. A guy out of Nashville I followed that does a lot of work for them, and all of his stuff sounds amazing. And he's using all those mics and everything. So a lot of it comes down to preference. I would say definitely do as much research. If you're looking into those things, do as much research as you can so you can make an informed decision on what your ear prefers. I haven't, like, some of the things I've mixed that people have sent me that have recorded those, and I don't know all their mix change, so maybe they were tossing EQ and stuff on there. But they come out a little brittle to me sometimes, and I have to end up spending quite a bit of time trying to tame that before I can get onto the mixing part. The mic pre's sound pretty good. How and Tao have a bunch of them in Taiwan. They sent me some stuff from them. I was actually quite impressed with them.
Yeah, you can say that the warm audio stuff is a good approximation of the real deal. Obviously, it will never be the same because we're talking, third of the price sometimes, or,
But because of that may not matter. I mean, I like, me, if you guys have seen in the videos, I love the Golden Age stuff. And I don't care that it's only, $500 or whatever because it gets the sound I want. And sometimes when you're looking at $5 or like in the Warm case, a single channel is what, like $699, $799, something like that, compared to $3,500. And if they're like right in neck and neck, I mean, that's a no-brainer to go with the cheaper one because you can spend money on other things you need to for your studio. Or, sometimes food is good.
Or like a good rule for studio budgeting, it's better to have many choices than one amazing one.
Well, I think it depends on what you do. If you're doing vocals, if you're at home doing one or two channels, I would spend the time finding the best thing possible. The one thing I will say so far in my experience, whether it's Warm, Golden Age, even the ART to a certain extent, although I haven't had much problem with them, is one thing that you pay for a lot of the times may not necessarily be that the sound is 100 times better, but the build quality. On the high end, a BAE unit, when you get that thing, it is built like a tank.
Yes.
A Rupert Neve. Like I was surprised how heavy these 542s were when I put them in the 500 rack. I'm like, holy crap, these things are built really well. So you're paying for something is going to last you. Of course, they're electronic. You can always have issues, but that is one thing. But having said that, man, the price doesn't dictate. If you hear, I know Scott Francisco, he loves the Warm Audio, the WA2A. He won't even buy an actual real one. He's like, dude, this thing sounds so amazing. He uses it on all his vocals and all his bass and loves it. And I trust what that guy says. He records really good stuff. So it comes down to your ear cost. It's hard to beat the price tag of some of those things when you're trying to put a studio, especially if you're doing drums. Then you need, like Ernesto says, you need enough choices or enough things to get your drum sound in. If you're only doing vocals at home, find that piece of gear that just agrees with your voice and what you're doing, whatever the cost. Because then if you spend $5,000, you're only spending it one time.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go buy a BAE or a real Neve at $3,500 and you need 24 of them for your studio, that adds up real fast.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope that answered the question.
On that side,
Let's see, one more, and then I'm gonna go attempt to play some freaking drums. Is there anything else? Have you ever done a mix where the client wants that super modern metal sound, but won't let me use samples? Okay. I think
classic question.
Is that Justice? All right, you guys, I'll try to get some other questions, but I don't want to talk everybody's ears off, and I have been known to do that. I'm totally aware of it. But I want to answer, that's a good question and probably could be its own fireside chat. And I think the next broadcast, which will probably be, we're going to do a couple of weeks for the next couple of weeks, maybe Thursday, is just going to be a console side chat. We're going to get all the questions in and we're just going to go through it. We don't have to, or maybe we do that today and we play on Thursday. I don't know. But metal. First off, man, I got to preface all this stuff because I personally think that I don't care what genre you're doing, you should try to be you, period. I don't care what other things in the genre are doing. If you're trying to emulate something that's already out there, you're already behind because it's already out and it's not you. When I do metal, and Blood Feast Ritual is getting ready to release their EP that we did. They actually put the artwork out yesterday for it.
Nice.
That stuff is some pretty extreme death metal.
Oh, yeah.
The Our Dying World, there's another one I'm working on that's like that. None of this stuff is heavy samples. I'm not a big sample guy. I'm not anti-sample, but I'm not a big replace guy. Personally, I like to try to come up with things that are interesting. So if a client wants a modern sound but no samples, then there are certain things I can do in even in my analog setup, and then when you apply what you can do inside the box to help clean things up, there's a lot of interesting things you can do without resorting to that sound that everybody has heard out of metal that makes it all sound the same. So I like it especially if I'm tracking start to finish. We're already building those sounds in the beginning, so I know where things aren't done well or are going to need some help later. I don't mind blending samples in. I think, and he masters everything too, so he kind of gets to hear it before we finalize the mixes. I like to use the samples to get some consistency in that, because in metal you kind of need it. When you got those kick drums, especially some of that flying stuff, you have to have that, and that is just, some of those tempos are brutal for a human being to do, although I have heard a few that can. But to get that consistency, I use the samples. None of the metal stuff that I have done I would call that super modern sound. Would you?
No.
And honestly, that's come from the artist first. I've been real happy, like, we don't want that. We haven't even quantized it. The Blood Feast Ritual, they didn't want any of that. They were like, no, this is us, and we want it to be us. We'll just play it as many times as we need to get it as good as we possibly can. And I love that. That makes me excited because it's still human. Some of my favorite, and I think your favorite too, is you go to old Slayer, old Exodus, all that old stuff, and I hear it, and it still gives me goosebumps and makes me want to run around and punch people. And some of the new stuff that is so fixed to be so perfect doesn't make me angry at all. And that's kind of weird when you're listening to metal. I should get some sort of anger, need anger management. And I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
But, I look at my favorite guys, I'm Joe Barresi, one of my favorites, and all that stuff he does. You listen to some of the Slipknot, some of the other things. There's so much character in it, and I think that's more important. I know I don't think I answered your question right, but I think it's more of dealing with the client. I think at that point, anytime you're dealing with the client, artist, whatever you want to call them, because they're both, I guess, is you have to first off, you have to make sure you're on the same page with what they want. So when you ask questions or you try to nudge them a certain way, you're coming from their perspective as much as you can. Also, sometimes you have to be the person that deciphers what they're actually saying, because that has happened more times than, at least in the beginning working with someone, more often what they're telling me isn't actually what they want, because they're trying to translate their vision, and maybe they don't have the words to do that, or don't quite know how to convey a certain thought or idea or sound to me. So a lot of the times I try to go with, how does it make you feel? If someone comes and says, I want, absolutely has to be that modern sound and no samples, no dice. I mean, that, if you're going that way, you're going to have to go that direction. There's just no two ways around it. Now, one thing you can do, and don't tell anybody, except for the people on this broadcast right now and whoever will see this later, you can try to sneak things in. Okay, I got it. We got it. Cool. And you use the real thing, and you just blend things, because you'd be surprised how natural something can still sound, but yet consistent if you blend things well. Now, dealing with bleed and cymbals is a whole other thing in metal, especially hi-hats and snares, which that would be a good topic to do at some point. But I think if you approach it from a creative aspect, and if you run into a problem where you're like, crap, I cannot get them what they're asking with them putting these boundaries on it, then you have to figure out a way to explain that to them. And it might be as simple as you doing what you need, what you know you need to do to get it to sound right, and then show them and let them hear the difference. And then they can make their mind up themselves. Because it's a lot easier to let someone hear what the issue is and why you may need to do something than it is to sit there and try to just tell them. And that has worked for me quite a few times. Probably you the same thing. It work for people.
Yep.
They kind of go, oh, okay, I see what the problem is. Okay, all right, well, let's try this. And then maybe it leads you in a whole new path, and you come out with a whole new sound, and you sound different than everybody else, and it's awesome.
Yeah, because if everybody using the same samples, every drum set will sound the same.
Yes.
You'll be like, what's the fun in that?
Why
do
toilet.
people still go to frickin' Levy breaks, right? Everybody's marveled about the
Levy
sound.
breaks?
Yeah, Levy or whatever. The dam, whatever. What is it?
When the levee breaks?
Levy, yeah.
Levy. Oh, this sounds more expensive
What's the other word that everybody is saying you shouldn't say that?
Oh, detente.
Yeah, detente. Yes, exactly. The detente on the pots.
I was down at Trident, I don't know, a couple months ago with something. I go, yeah, man, it's not sitting in the detente right on something we were fixing. And Justin looks at me and goes, detente? What are you talking about? You mean detents?
The tense. It's
I was
French.
like, the taunt
The
sounds
original
more
is
expensive,
French.
so I went with that. Anyway, that was
Yeah.
sorry. That was a long. When did it, I hope I kind of answered that question. It's hard. I think the bottom line is I think you need to do your best to understand what they're asking you to do. If you run into a problem where you can't get what they're asking for based on their parameters, do what you need to do to make it as right or as good as you can, and then show them, and then work on it together. You'll work on things together. You'll bypass a lot of headaches that way too, and they just might come around to see your point of how you need to make things happen. So that's what I would say. All right, I'm gonna play some drums. I'm gonna come back and I'm sorry. I'm looking over here just seeing if there's anything I can do quick while I'm walking in there. Joe, awesome. We'll do more of these, man. Hopefully we'll see you on more. 26 letters of unison language. All right, I'm going to go hit some drums. You want to kill this mic too? Yep. And am I on in there?
Yes, you are.
Oh. I'm going to take the iPad with me.
Oh yeah. Moving you over there.
All right, am I on? Can you see me? Am I on? Is this thing working? I know. Imagine if I could actually sing and play drums at the same time. Well, I probably could sing and play drums at the same time, but I guarantee none of you want to hear me sing. It's pretty bad. Okay, quick rundown of the rest of this setup. I kind of went over it in there, but this was actually set up. I did some tracking for a composer friend of mine, Charles Sidner, the other day, and this is the kit I used. I love these old Forum toms. They're kind of big and fat and flappy sounding, which is cool, with the Heil PR30s, my trusty PR30s on the toms. Now, the snare mic, I'm going to see if I can pull this out real fast. Probably just messed up the mic placement, but I don't care. Oh, you know what? I can't, damn it. Sorry. I got the cables all twisted. Anyway. It is an SDC 84, I think, from Mic Parts. And this would be a great thing to do while you're stuck at home. Build your own microphones. The SD84, it's SDC84. It's based on the KM84. We did a little experiment last year where I was looking for another option for the snare besides the 451. So I asked him about his SDC84, and he didn't think that on a snare, especially for somebody playing loud, that it would have quite enough headroom. So he made a version of it with I think it's you're going to have to look at the website. Don't quote me on it, or don't hold me to this, but I believe it's a bit different transformer, and it's padded down on the inside. And it sounds really good, and it is now an option. I think he calls it the SDC84 snare mic or something. So you can get the regular one, which would be great for overheads, acoustic guitar, whatever, or you can get the version that goes on the snare. And it sounds really cool. I am going to do an entire video on that sometime soon and just play some different snares and let you guys kind of hear that thing, because it's a bitchin' mic and it's not that expensive. I think I've covered everything else enough for that. Now we got to see if I can actually play this damn thing. All right. Oh, yeah, I can. Is this mic still on? This on? Not yet. Not yet. I saw Ruben just ask what's inside the kick. So the kick mic, I don't think I said that actually. Inside the kick is an ATM 250 from Audio-Technica, which I use probably 90% of the time. And then on the outside today, I have an Audio-Technica AT4047. Sometimes that is a Roswell Pro Audio Mini K47KD, which is the kick drum version. It's got an internal pad on it, so it can handle a little higher SPL. It sounds great also. And a lot of the times I run both of those mics, the 4047 and the Mini K47KD, on the outside. But today it's a ATM 250 Audio-Technica and AT4047 Audio-Technica. Now, I do have a chart. If you guys see me looking to the left over here, well, you probably see it over this other camera if Ernesto cuts to it. I got a chart I got to read. This is going to be interesting. All right. Let's kill this mic, and I'm going to try to play. Hold on. I need a key. Where'd my key go? 1 second.
There's always adjustments being made in the studio. Always. It never ends.
Little tweaky tweak. Cross your fingers. shanked a couple snare drums. Here, can you turn this mic on real quick? Can you turn my mic on? Is it on? Okay, I can't hear it in here, so I don't know. So one thing I do want to say, which camera's on? Who's on? That one? So one thing I do want to say, and this is important to any drummer out there for sure, but also for engineers to understand. you're only going to be as good as your drummer is consistent and can get sounds. And you heard in that take, there's some snares that I shanked here and there, and it's a completely different tone. And I'm not talking about the variances that just sound real but different. I'm talking about one where you get a nice whack and the next one's skank, and being able to get that consistent. I'm going to make one excuse. I'm not going to make an excuse. I should be able to do it. I played drums for 36 freaking years. But I don't play that often now, but I can feel it as I'm playing when things are not consistent. So I'm going to do another take and see if I can definitely beat that crap. But I think as a drummer, it's not just about what you're playing, but it's about how you're playing it and what it sounds like. As an engineer, understanding that would allow you to help drummers when you're in your session, because you might say, oh man, something doesn't sound right, man. A lot of times in the kick drums, they're so inconsistent. Go, hey, we need it. If we smooth that kick drum out, pay attention when you're doing this. A lot of drummers, when they play, here, this is probably going to be loud in this microphone here, but they hit 2 hits, the second one ends up being a lot louder than the first. Or if they're playing fast doubles, the first one's louder than the second. So it's getting to where you can even that out. In this case, this is just a rock and roll tune, man. I got to make sure this snare drum is bam, spot on the whole time. And that's what I'm going to try to do in this next take. All right, Heber, you ready? Yeah, my goal this time is not to suck. Couple snares. This isn't on, is it? No. All right. So the mix you have, you can take the overheads down a little bit if you want to. So in there, if you want to, yeah, you can take the overheads down a little bit. Yeah, this is, man, again, we thought 3 hours was enough. We needed more. So let's you can turn the overheads down. I can't see. I try to read and play at the same time, which is a recipe for playing like total crap kind of cameras. Hey, just make sure too that we don't have the. I don't think we do. We're muted, but check in the Blackmagic software that we're muted on the camera audio. I knew we'd have some problems today since we haven't done this in a while, and it's a brand new rig. I promise you, the shit will get worked out. I wish I knew some jokes. What? I know, but it just that we're not. There's no camera audio on, right? That we're muted on the camera channels. All right, cool. I'm gonna do one more. Yeah, and the overheads too. Well, you could just on the channel. I think I had the Heritage of the Delphos on, so channel was it 13, 14 on the monitor on the console. You can just kill those. And if you need, sounds good. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time. And I know last time I said I wasn't gonna suck, but this I did suck on a couple parts. So I'm gonna try one more. Hopefully, I don't suck and the audio doesn't suck. But we will get this worked out. I promise, guys. By the next time we do this, which will be very, very soon. All right, you can kill my mic now. There we go. Okay. Anyway, to finish up just my one little rant to drummers, and this was something back many moons ago when I taught at Musicians Institute. There we go. Pull the P&P out, kill the key. Nothing like learning new software on the fly. But it's trying to have energy and consistency. I don't think anything is about being perfect. This is my personal view. You can agree with me, disagree with me. It's all cool. I don't mind. And it's actually good if we all have different points of view sometimes. But it's about finding something that moves you. And sometimes that means what moves you has some imperfection or some flaws in it, because it creates an emotion. Once everything's been made perfect, and I know this has happened for everybody wants to say modern music is what killed everything. Man, there's been tricks going back decades that they've done to fix things and make things better. So it's not about not making it as good as it can be, but I think knowing where that cutoff is of this is me, this is that picture in time right now of us making this music, and it makes me feel something. And if we do anything more to it, we're going to edit it and make it perfect and sterilize it. And if you know when to stop, when that point is, I think you'll come out with music that you're happier with and that not only moves you but does connect with the listener. Because I really do believe that we subconsciously connect to things that are not perfect. Now, if you're doing techno and EDM, you don't want that shit to be all over the place. You got to make sure that's down the center because that's what the music calls for. But having some bit of a human element in everything is good. Now, having said that, you still got to make sure it's good. That last take I did, I felt much better about most parts except for maybe 2 or 3 little things that I'll probably comp than I did the first 2 takes because I felt like I was a bit inconsistent with the snare. But as I got my body more engaged in it, back when I was playing all the time, this was no brain. This stuff just happened. It was so ingrained in me. Now I kind of have to think about it because I spend most of my time playing piano instead of drums, which moves me more. But as that last take, I probably should do one more, but as I got my body moving, I started to feel it, and I forgot. Wasn't paying attention so much to, hey, I'm recording something. Even though all I have is drums and a scratch track in my ear, I pictured myself on stage at the Staples Center, and it just felt better to me. Anyway, that's my last rant. No, that's a lie. I'm going to have many more rants. Hopefully, they're decent rants. But now, let's do some bass. Any question? Am I missing anything I need to go over? Somebody tell me to buy a metronome? No. Tell them I did. I just need to use it. One thing I did notice, and this is something, because we haven't done this in a while, on the camera in here, when I went to the P&P earlier, you guys, you got to learn to check. We don't often use autofocus and auto white balance because it usually gets you in trouble. The auto white balance got us in trouble because I've seen a couple times where the screen is darkened, and that's the auto white balance making an adjustment when someone moves and the light reflects differently. Anything auto, usually bad. Great in the beginning, but after you get used to it, it's not using it, you find that things tend to be much better. You have more control over things. Is that something we should go over? I've never really talked about the camera setups of anything. These are the Canon Vixias, but we have the GH4 that we can use. Now we can do 6 cameras in here on the setup. We only have 4 hooked up at the moment because it's too much for 2 of us to deal with. But yeah, we're not using any of the audio from that. But whatever little audio glitches, we'll get them figured out. I promise you, very, very fast, because I don't like things to suck. I'm way too vain for that. All right, we're going to get some bass. So this bass, okay, that's right. You can't kill the magic, vibe, and energy too much, or at all. Sometimes, man, if something's a total train wreck, but it just makes you feel crazy or cool or whatever, I'd keep it a total train wreck. There's plenty of bands out there. No, he's going to grab a strap, so I'm going to keep talking while he's doing that, because we're already plugged in and kind of ready to go. It's interesting as I get older, and I'm only 27, which is crazy. I played drums for 36 years, so I'm only 27. Figure that out. But as I do get older, I try to be more open-minded to things that I wasn't when I was a kid, or my early, especially in my 20s when I went to 2 music schools and was so into the muso thing and had definite blinders on of what was good and what was bad, and it was all based on things that weren't always here. That made me feel something. And as I get into it now, I've gone back and appreciated things that I hated back then. And even if I don't like it now, it's okay not to like something. I can appreciate something I don't like. I mean, I'm sure you're probably the same way. There's a lot of music that I'm like, yeah, it's not my thing. I don't really like it. Turn the channel. But you know what? I hear they did. I can appreciate that. I can see how someone else might dig it, you know? Because there's definitely music I hate. There's music I hate that's played by players that I like, too, which is strange. But I hope I can tell the difference anyway. But I like things that aren't fixed, perfect, you know. Take a chance. You know, what do you got to lose? You don't get to do this one life to do this stuff, right? Why take the you out of it? All right, so roar, blah, blah, blah. English. I'm from Kansas. English isn't my first language. The Warwick rock bass. This is, where's your mic at? Get that thing here. Twist this sucker over. I'm gonna let Ernesto tell you about it. I'll make sure he's on.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Am I there?
Yeah, you should be. Go for it.
Well, I mean, this is one of these lucky things that happen. When Warwick used to have a distributor here in Ventura, they had the warehouse over there. And one time we went, and it's like, man, you have any B stock? So, yeah, go check. And I found this baby, and it's one of the most used spaces ever because I use it for pretty much everything. So, active pickups. Other than that, you know, it's regular 5-string. You know, it just sounds great. I don't know what the Germans do with this EMC preamp thing that you have in there, because there's certain boosts. I leave everything at detente. Right? So, I mean, only the volume, but everything else, I mean, you can. I leave both mics combined, so that's what you're gonna hear. I'm not boosting. I could boost the low and everything because it's active, so you have an additional preamp, so you can, you know, kill it. But I don't like that. It's too much.
No, and this bass, just DI, this bass sounds really good. Sometimes it's enough. We don't even do anything else to it, but it makes it easy to work with later if we so choose. And we probably will on this, you know. Again, you guys, I just want to remind you, if there's, you've got some ideas, because I know Ernesto's been keeping track of it while I was playing. I obviously couldn't read. Whether it's stuff you've heard based on here, I have other questions. I'm hoping that YouTube lets us save these chats now. They used to not, but it's been so long, I don't know if they do now. If they don't, and there's something I didn't address or he didn't address today, please send me a DM or go to the website, ultimatestudios.inc.com, send us a message there, or, you know, even on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. And I'm going to keep track of all that stuff. I'm going to make a big old list, and we're just going to try to go through all those things. Yeah. I think that's the most fun way to do all this.
Yeah, and we can do a Q&A even now at the end of the session.
Yeah, we'll get through the bass, and then we'll go through some more questions.
Yep.
You know, I don't know about you guys, but we don't have a whole lot else to do. We're considered non-essential business, so I can't technically have people in the building. And Google actually shut me down without even asking, man. All right, so bass. Let's see. I'm gonna flip over. I'm gonna put a little P&P up here because I don't want to have my back to you the whole time. So give me 1 second.
And whenever you're doing video, you need crew. I mean, if we're doing kamikaze right here, just 2 people doing the job of 4, and it's amazing. You know, one person takes care of all the online stuff, moving the camera cuts and all that stuff, which is all done via software now. And yeah, and then if somebody would have a handheld camera, and you know, that would be great too. But hey, we just 2 in here, so we're doing the best we can. But it's a lot of fun, I can tell you.
I miss How and Tao. But I tell you, we'll get the workflow down. Yeah. You know, we know the gear's working. To just, I missed having a person that was dedicated to listening to what was going on in the broadcast, so we could catch things and fix them quickly. Yeah. But we will probably practice later tonight.
Yeah,
and figure some of that stuff out. And I will say,
we're having four eyes right now.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to get another 4. I mean, I may have to draw them on the back of my head, but one way or the other. Also, in a week, I'm waiting to get a confirmation, but I'm going to have Mike Nealand from Ludwig is going to come join me, and we are going to do something all about snares, picking snares, what the different types do, how you might use those in your recordings. If you're looking to buy new, you know, get new sounds or whatever, what the different materials, whether it's wood, whether you've got aluminum, you've got steel, you've got, all the different types. We're going to go through all of that stuff in a broadcast, most likely next week. I'll get more up on the YouTube channel and everything, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook too, and we'll get all that stuff out. All right, I'm going to go this way. You can still see me in the GoPro, hopefully. It's the little guy in the left corner. All right, you want to play a little bass there, buddy?
Oh yeah, look at that.
Here, I'm going to mute his mic. I'm going to keep mine on, but I'm going to use the polar pattern here of the good old dynamic mic to block out most of the bass. All right, let's get a sound check. But see, that bass sounds really good right out of the, just direct. It's going right into the overstayer with just a... I'm only doing about 3 dB of reduction on the WA76. I am 4-1. I am fast attack, fast release, though. In this case, I'm just looking for it to grab some of the peaks and not annihilate. I will probably annihilate it later with a dynamite, because dynamites are cool. Okay. We're going to do a quick sound check to make sure everything's as right as it can be. Here, play. I'll boost it even more, though. One second. I think I got the bass where we're going to use it. I'm going to check and make sure you guys can hear all this fun stuff. Okay, here we go. Sorry. I think I got things straight now. And it's time to rock. Here we go. I'll turn the click on at the top. Ready? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Never mind. I'm not going to... All right, we're gonna do something here. That we should change for my drum. Let's just because otherwise we got 4 against 6. It works.
Yeah, because I'm just going.
For the drum fill, that way it's catching the boom.
Oh. Okay.
We're gonna do one more take. Yeah, just that one time. We'll get the guitars that way there too. Okay. Ballroom Blitz. Okay, we're gonna do one more. I'm sorry, I'm trying to listen to what he's doing and answer some questions as best I can. I'm gonna do that again this take. Usually, if I'm actually producing somebody though, I put my phone and everything away and pay attention. But I like you guys, so he knows how to record. I'll try to answer some more questions. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
We're gonna punch in that last chorus. So I'll get you right before the fill.
Didn't do one take through.
I'll get you. I'll punch you in on that where I do the drum fill. Cool. All right. First off, Katie had a question. Do you ever find that active pickups don't work for certain sounds? Is there a reason to have active versus passive pickups in a bass for recording purposes? That's a great question. I want to know the answer too.
Well, the thing about active pickups is,
Katie, hold on. I had my mic muted. I just read
Okay.
your question about the active pickups. He's going to answer.
it's active pickups are very consistent, right? And obviously they have more output. So if you want that really compressed bass sound, without a lot of dynamics, active is the way to go. But if you're Jaco Pastorius type of player, picks hard or uses the fingers very soft, whatever, it's like just go traditional Fenders, with no active stuff. But that's the advantage of active. It's like for heavy rock or anything where you just need to pound and it's always even. It's like it's the best.
I didn't know that, actually. That's good to know. Is this an EGX? This English thing. I'm from Kansas, not my first language. Remember, is this an EGH track? This was going to be an EGH track. It was a leftover from some of the high-octane guitar stuff, actually. And it was just one we kind of went, oh, this just sounds like wannabe AC/DC kind of thing. So we didn't think it really fit. That's why we're using it for these purposes. Now it's going to be, these will be demo things that we can use to demo for these broadcasts or whatever, guitars and other such things. So it was intended to be one of the new variations of EGH, which is I can't play all the solo crap anymore. So, and I can only count to 4. Someone asked, I saw another question. Will you slide, Michael, will we slide the down? But what I'm going to do, when we're done with the broadcast, I'm going to give him another pass and crank it up in here like crazy. I'm not going to fix one thing in the drums. They are what they are. I'm going to let them be that. But it's not that loud in here right now. So I am going to crank up. And I was flipping a couple times to hear the broadcast feed, which drops the volume coming off the Blackmagic considerably, which made him guess a little bit. I would only slide downbeats if we got takes and they were done. We didn't have another chance to do them, and I needed to make sure. Man, it's like you get the flam thing. Yeah, I'll move a thing here and there. I'm going to give him another pass with the crank like crazy once we're done with the broadcast, and see if we get around those issues entirely. But the drums are moving around, so he's having to. Now this is a time, personally. One more rant right now. This is why I like bands tracking together, because if he and I were actually playing this at the same time, the chance of him not being with my downbeats are less. And I'm not blaming you, I'm blaming me, because I hear where I'm pushing and pulling. But yeah, we would be locked in. I did this with the band Argus Row. Their EP came out, I don't know, a few months back. They were metal, young kids too, early 20s. We tracked everything live. When they sent me demos of the stuff beforehand, they had tried tracking some things separate. It didn't work. Stuff wasn't lining up. They were having a hard time. I mean, stuff was wandering. I'm like, what the hell is going on? We got in a room, and everybody played together, and whatever movement happened, and there was, because we didn't fix anything, but they moved together. Downbeats were more accurate. Consistency in sections were more accurate. The particular players that may have had issues with keeping time when the things were being done individual, those problems were gone because they were playing together. And that's the same with Ernesto and I. When we track together, it's much tighter. He's not, I don't know what it is, but you lock in with my movement. And I take blame.
Well, it's an instant feed off each other.
Right.
It's just like, if somebody's rushing, hey, let's rush together,
So many good records. When what'd you call it, Levy? When the Levy breaks?
When the Levy breaks,
that stuff pushes and pulls like crazy, and it's pretty awesome. But we actually talked about doing that before we started the broadcast, and then we decided, you know what, we had some technical difficulties. We're going to do it separate to make it a little bit easier so we can figure our 2-person workflow. When we stopped doing this before, we had 4 people. And we want the multiple cameras, and I want to get the audio and everything dialed in because I want this stuff to be good. This isn't iPhone live broadcasting, man. I want to try to bring you guys into our world and have as much fun as possible. So I promise you I'll get everything fixed out. Itchy 100% bends on the genre. Is that referencing another question? Because, yes, some things are genre-dependent, and some things I don't believe are that people say are live by some rules that I don't know who made up. So I'm not sure. Thoughts on a click track? I was playing to one. Was it that obvious I wasn't? Okay, but my actual thoughts on it. I think they're beneficial for many reasons. One, as a drummer, I love not having to be the one. If I'm playing live with people, I love not having to be the one with the responsibility to rein everybody in. And sometimes when I have a click track with me, I can let it do the work. It frees me up, and I know I have something helping keep me grounded, which makes it easier for me to keep everybody else grounded. I do think there's two different ways of using a click. There is playing with it and playing to it, and they are very different things. Playing to a click is when someone is not comfortable. You hear the movement, you hear things may slide around, and there's excessive jumps being made to try to get back on the click. Then there's playing with the click where it's just another musician in the room. I know some drummers that can bury a click so hard and still groove so hard. It makes me so jealous. I've never been able to do that. That was unfortunately never one of my skills that I acquired, to be that dead on and still groove. Like Kurt Pescara, if you ever hear him, a matter of fact, there's probably some good videos on YouTube of him talking about working with the click, and he can, in real time, position himself on top of the click to give it some energy, move it on the back of the click to make it feel relaxed, or bury it down the middle, and it stays there, and all of it's grooving. And Ndugu Chancellor, oh man, I wish he was still alive. He's one of my favorites. He was a master of working with the click, and you'd never know it. It grooves so freaking hard. But I think just for time-wise, it can be beneficial. However, I've done stuff like Statues of Cats. It was one of the first things we did in here. We didn't use a click on any of that stuff, and it grooved so much better when they were just playing together and letting it breathe than it did when we tried to do it with a click. And Anthony is really good at playing to a click. It just didn't work with the group, and we turned the click off, and all of a sudden everything came together. It's like, oh, there you go, no clicks, which puts a lot more importance on getting the takes right, but it makes it a lot of fun too. Now, if you're going to do editing, if you're in that case where you need to do editing, you got to do it with a click. You do have limited editing you can do without it, but it makes it a lot harder. But if you're going to do stringent editing where you're really going to go to town on it, you got to do it with a click because you got to have some sort of reference there. I personally don't mind playing with a click. I also don't worry about if I'm moving around it a little bit. I have it pretty low in my headphones, so it's more of a reference, and I try to play with the best feel that I think I can get at any given moment. That's my rant on there. How does your console work with Logic? Is it no, console's not digital. There is, Dan, man, that's a big question. How much time you guys have, man? Because I don't mind answering some more of these because, you know, I just want to get to Chipotle before they close. That's why my one outing of the day will be going by Chipotle to get takeout. Okay, the console. There are a few videos I've done recently that I walk through the patch bay and I walk through that setup. See this? I need to set the computer. I will set up another computer where I can easily type this stuff in later next time. So I do have the way. It's the quick way. I'm gonna take this off here so I can kind of turn around. Is I still the PNP up so you can still see this over here in the picture-in-picture? Cool. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna.
Let me put the PNP.
No, it's up there. You want to just cut to the GoPro just for a second so I can talk to it? I'll be a little fisheye, but I'm fisheye anyway. So the way this is set up is I tried to make it as simple as I could, so if there was no patching to be done, like in a session I wanted to be able to work. I patch all the time because I patch all kinds of crap in. And by crap, I mean fun outboard gear that makes it fun for me. So I do that, but I don't have to do any of that. So starting in that room, the ISO or the back ISO, I'm going to start with the live room where the drums are. If I go into patch panel and channel 1 in the patch panel in that room, it comes into my top patch bay, which channel 1, I have things half normal there because sometimes I do splits there, which I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but I do it and it works. I have it half normal to go to input of Trident on channel 1. That's my mic pre. I have the direct out of the Trident in the patch bay number 2 that is normaled to the input of the I/O, which at this current time, that would be the Motu 24 I/O. I have the output of the Motu 24 I/O, which is patch bay number, let me make sure I'm telling you right, I think number 3. Yes, patch bay number 3. The output of 1 will be normaled to the monitor input on the Trident. That means I can plug into channel 1 in there. It comes into channel 1 on the board without patching a thing. It goes into channel 1 of my I/O without patching a thing. into Logic, and the rare occasion where I'm tracking in Pro Tools. Channel 1, I set my output on channel 1, in this case the kick, in Logic. It comes out to my monitor return here on channel 1. No patching. So I'm 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, all the way through the first 24. Once it gets to the ISO booth, I have 6 channels in that ISO booth. I have 6 channels in the back ISO booth, and we have 2 channels in here that we use. Those are in the second half of the first patch bay. A couple of those normal down or half normal down to the overstayers and the Tonelux mic pre's, so I can patch right into those if I want to. But the board itself, it's in one, out one. And I set it up that way because I wanted it to be simple. The headphone system also set up the same way. We have the good old Behringer Power Play, and it does the job. It's not the greatest, but I have actually been fairly impressed with how well it has worked. I have my input starting at 25, so I have 16 channels. There's 40 total ins and out at this point in time. I have 25 through 40 in a different patch bay, and those go out and go directly to the headphone system. So what I would do in Logic, next time I should set up a screenshot of this computer, because you probably won't be able to see this from the GoPro over there. But I have at the end of my session here, I have some auxes where I set up my headphone sends right there, and it goes out to me. Or if I have different musicians, I send it out to I group things and send it out to everybody, and then they can kind of mix things themselves. That is, I just set, for my drum mix right now, I sent myself a stereo with the kick, snare, toms, and overheads. So 6 tracks, and I went out 25 and 26, so I got a stereo feed. And in Logic, I just set these auxes out 25, 26, and they automatically show up on my mixers out there. I had the guitar on 27, 28, the click track. The way I do a click is I always send it out to the board, unless I'm on a session that we're running 30 tracks where I have every pre and stuff going. But in this case, I have it coming out here on channel 20 on the console. On aux 1, I have it set to pre-fader, and that is, I have to patch that in, but that sends my click out. That way, we can turn the click on and off in here. He didn't want to hear the click. I just turn it off, but it's still sending out to the mixers in the other room. I don't know if that kind of answers the question. It's a bigger question than that, I know, but I do have a couple videos where I've gone through that extensively that are fairly recent. And you know what? Maybe we're going to do a console side chat where we just talk about patch bays and wiring and all that and everybody's studios and that sort of thing. But I tried to set it up so it was as 1 to 1, 2 to 2, as little patching as possible, unless I wanted to. Does that answer that question? Hopefully. I'm trying to talk in full sentences. Click track will make a bad drummer pretty good and a great drummer. I don't know. Jeremy, I don't know if I agree with it. A click track, well, it depends on your definition of bad drummer. If the bad drummer has no time, a click track isn't fixing that. Because a drummer with no time usually doesn't get better when you stick some rigid time on in their ears. And a great drummer. Yeah, and a click, but I do think I agree with sometimes a click track can make a great drummer just pretty good because they focus too much on the click. I record vocals in my room. I use an SM7B. Love that mic. Yeah, okay. The SM7B. Here, you want to go back to the. I'm going to flip around. We'll go back to the other camera. The normal one? Yeah. I'm going to hold this microphone because it makes me feel important. Check the settings on the SM7B because I know there's some EQs in the back. That microphone can get, depending on the music, but I find with some of the metal, like all the metal stuff I've done, we've used the SM7B, and even some rock, especially if the vocals are really screamer vocals and we need something that can handle it. But it can be harsh there. You try dipping it with EQ. Try if you can get a de-esser that can go down that low, that can help also. I've actually used my Joe Meek mic pre's because it's got a de-esser on it, and it's a little darker and tends to tame that when I get that issue. Avoid EQ too much in that point, I would say, at least tracking, because you don't want to make a problem worse. Unless you can maybe go in that 2K area with don't go too narrow on the Q, leave it a little wide, but maybe 3, 4, 5 dB, kind of just dip it right in there and see if that kind of tames a little bit of that. Sometimes that might do the trick, sometimes it might not. But there's also some, Ernesto, there's settings on the back of the SM7B. I never changed them, so I can't remember. You've got some EQ settings. Actually, you know what? I'm going to grab the damn thing. So I'm okay. He's gonna grab it. I think it's on the bottom shelf in there. But you can change those settings a little bit. I always use it with the windscreen on too. I know I see some people taking it off. I never do. I leave the windscreen on. Let them get rid of on the mic. Okay. Can you break normal? Michael, can you break? Yes, you can break normals. Matter of fact, all my outboard gear is non-normaled. I've cut it all, so you have to patch in, patch out, so we don't actually get anything. Yeah, here we go. So you do. Am I holding it upside down? Yeah, see, right now, this is the boost is on. Here, I'm going to get up. That's hard to do, look backwards. Right there on the back, you have a couple different selections you can make that are EQ curves for this microphone. And if you find that you're getting that build up, check and see what that's set at. See if that helps. If that doesn't do the trick, if you're still getting it when you make it flat or whatever, take an EQ and even a visual EQ at that point just to help you a little bit and get in that 2K area and start dipping and see if you can tame it with that. The other thing is, are you compressing a lot? Because if you are compressing, that can make, especially if it's heavy compression, that can exacerbate that issue as well. So anyway, back to Michael. Yes, the non-normals and the patch bay, the patch bay have for all the outboard is that way. And I just, a few times, you get something that actually goes somewhere and you get these feedback loops. And I just broke them. So that stuff you patch in, you patch out. And sometimes I'm patching in and out of multiple. I'm daisy chaining so many things together that I don't want anything to accidentally, especially being half normaled. Normaled would probably get you similar thing too, because once you patch into it, you have to patch out. But
The same Daniel says he has a build up at 2K with that SM7.
yeah, I think that was the question I was trying to answer.
I mean, that has to do with the interface, what the mic pre does, I think.
Huh?
Because he's using a USB interface, so it depends if he's cranking that mic pre, you might get it harsh.
Okay. What Ernesto, he doesn't have his mic on. He's over here talking to me. He said that, I didn't see your full question. He's over there reading everything. That the interface you have too, that can, especially the USB interfaces and whatever mic pre is on there, they don't all sound the same. And that doesn't mean that you can't make great stuff with cheap interfaces. Done it, whatever. I'm not saying go out and spend a bunch of money. I'm just saying that it can, with that mic, it may be a combination that kind of creates that too. So watch how much gain you're pushing into it. Now this mic you have to push a lot of gain with because, man, it's quiet. You might look at getting a cloud lifter. That can be a great thing to use with this that actually gives you some clean gain, and I have found actually makes this mic a little nicer. And they make some single cloud lifters that aren't too expensive that you could try. And then maybe use a little EQ, like I said, just to sweep through there and see. Oh, I saw something about the console I missed from Dan again. So when you record and use the console for anything, that set can't change that. Can you clarify? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. If I can patch in and out of other things. That's why I do have some Tonelux mic pre's and the Overstayer mic pre's, and like I said, my Joe Meek mic pre's. I can patch into those and then patch those back into the console on the line inputs, or I can patch into those mic pre's and go directly into the I/O and bypass the console entirely. I find that I use the console quite a bit because it sounds good. Sticks in hand. Do I ever use mid-side for mic? Yes, actually, we did a this is probably, when was the last time we did those drum broadcasts with How? It would have been 2-3 years ago now. There are, search the channel, I think I may have even called it mid-side room mic, or I might have just called it room mic. We did do one with How where we set up a mid-side and used it, and maybe I need to update that and do something again with it, because that is a very cool setup for quasi stereo, but also having killer mono. It's bitchin' actually, and you can combine different mics. You can use a condenser and then use a ribbon for the figure 8, and get some really cool combos. You can get kind of experimental and have a lot of fun with it. Do I always commit to compression, EQ, and drum tracking? Absolutely. I actually do my best to get the sound, especially if I'm working with someone else and I'm in here behind the board the whole time. I am working all the time to record exactly what we want. I want my drum sound to be like 80% there, 85% there. And if that means it's got EQ and compression, then it has EQ and compression. If it doesn't, I don't always EQ. I don't EQ and compress just to EQ and compress. I used to when I was trying to figure all that out and made a lot of mistakes, which were good mistakes because I learned from them. But now, yeah, I look at it as the tracking process is the beginning of the mix process, and that's the same for guitars, bass, vocals, the whole 9 yards. This song today, we're leaving things open because we want this to be versatile for us to use in future broadcasts and videos to do tests, tweaks, ideas that you guys have, that sort of thing. So we're leaving it open to do that. But I always print what I think the sound should be, or what me and the artist have deemed the sound to be. It's more fun that way too, because if we get the drums done, we get to some guitar tracking or some vocals, you're already hearing the sound, and it makes everybody way more excited. So yes, but I have made a lot of mistakes over the years trying to get to that point. And I watch a lot. I mean, I watch a ton of Vance Powell and Joe Barresi videos because those guys are my freaking heroes. And they do that, and I think I've stole a lot of things from them. I'm okay with that because they're awesome. Is that a question in there? I did see that earlier that I tried to answer. Yeah, let me talk about that, the levels going in. I never record anywhere close. In Logic, you're never going to see any of my levels getting 0. Every once in a while, you'll miss something and peaks will happen, or players, when they get into it, all of a sudden they're playing harder and that changes. But I try to set my average peaks to be around -12. Float between -12, -15, with the super loud peaks of the excited drummer or the over-enthusiastic guitar player that all of a sudden decides that his guitar is a piano and wants to strike it instead of strum it, which has happened. Those might be up around -9, -8. That leaves plenty of headroom for several reasons. One being digital distortion going in. You can't do anything about it. If you get it in there, it's there. You're done. I want to stay so far away from that that I know it's never even an option. It's never even on the freaking table. It's never going to happen. And in this 24-bit world, there is absolutely zero reason to record that hot. It's not a tape machine. You're not going to add something by hitting it harder. You know, I'll hit the Rupert Neve 542 tape emulator harder to get what it does, but I'm not hitting my converters harder. I don't care what the converters are either. I'm not doing it. The other thing, if I'm going to start with my perspective, because I'm in a hybrid system leaning more towards the analog, but I use both. So I know if I'm mixing or something, it's going to come back out on the board. And this analog gear has sweet spots. And a lot of the times, if I get something to mix that I did not record and it's slammed up 0, the first thing I do in Logic, if they send it to me in Pro Tools, I transfer everything to Logic. I go in with the gain plugin at the top of every channel, and I gain everything down to sit in that -12-ish, -14, 15 area. That way I know when it comes out here, it's hitting my gear the way it wants to see it, and then I get to make the choices on what gets slammed and what doesn't get slammed. If I'm in the box, say you just bought your favorite Waves SSL plugin, you're all stoked. I'm going to use this on every channel. So I get that thing, which is totally cool. Go do that. It is emulating analog gear, meaning it wants to see things at a level that analog gear is used to seeing things, and that is not 0 dBFS. So you want to leave that headroom. And I've gotten this before where someone goes, man, I just got this so-and-so EQ, and it doesn't sound that good. And I'm like, well, okay, well, what is it? And we dive into it, and I realize that they're up at -2 dBFS or 0 dBFS. This shit's hitting 0. And it is going into this, channel's famous, the SSL channel slip or whatever it was. And that thing is getting saturated like crazy. And they go to dial in a little high-end EQ, and it's just like... Soon as we stuck some gain down and pulled that level down to what it wants to see, which, oh man, trying to think, it's somewhere -15 to -18.
Yeah, that's usually where it is.
dBu. No, I'm going to make an ass out of myself here. I'm going to clarify that and post something on it. But it is down in that -15 to -18 area.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, now the circuitry that plug-in is trying to emulate isn't going
Yeah.
because you've sent so much volume. So now you can go do some EQ moves or even compressors. You pull it on and you're just barely doing anything, and it's just fucking getting hammered. That's why. So
Yeah.
I know you got something to add to this.
Yeah.
But for me, I avoid clipping my converters. There's no reason in 24-bit to ever even get up there. I know for me, analog gear is not going to want to see that. I want to make the decision on what gets crushed, not my levels. And then I know a lot of you guys are using plugins, and especially if they're emulating any sort of analog circuitry, they're not wanting to see something that loud. You're pushing the emulation on the input transformer or whatever may be in that piece of fancy gear, and the more you do that, the more you saturate.
Yeah, I mean, what happens nowadays, people a lot of times mix with their eyes, and they look at the waveform and say, oh my God, the waveform is not big enough. Oh, I'm losing all these bits of my 24-bit recording, blah, blah, blah. And you go like, man, that's not it. I mean, 24-bit recording gives you headroom of 144 dB. That's a jet engine next to your ear, right? A plane with jet engine, 144 dB is basically, it makes you deaf. So that's the amount of headroom you have, right? In the analog days, they went all the way up to 90 only, right? So that's why they were pushing all that hardware, and they had a much higher noise floor, so the hardware was hissy. So, oh man, we better crank the signal so we don't hear the hiss, blah, blah, blah. With digital is quiet, right? So don't be afraid to leave headroom. So the moment the logic or any DAW metering level that you see goes into the yellow, stop pushing the input. Once it starts hitting the yellow, stop there. Oh, it's just right before the red. Wrong. Don't do that. You'll thank me later. Okay, that's it.
Okay, I was going to try to type an answer to Dan, but since I can't type fast enough, I'm going to say it. Dan, reading your you said once everything goes through the console into Logic, any setting of EQ is set, can't be changed. Yeah, it's printed. Same with the compression. So I'm really making sure it's what I want to hear going in. That does get easier the more you do it. Like I said, I used to do it. I've done it for a long time. I still mess up every once in a while, but don't mess up too often that can't be fixed. But we used to do a lot of practicing when we weren't doing sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, all night. And the next thing you know, it's like 4 in the freaking morning. And all we were doing was recording drums, recording guitar, recording bass, running it through the gear. What happens when you set it this way? What happens when you set it this way? It's practicing. It's just like learning an instrument. You've got to go practice that before you can go play with the band. And it's the same thing, I think, for recording. Is you got to spend some time in the woodshed getting to know the gear you have and how you can manipulate that gear and try to make your mistakes there. I do still almost every session I do when the artist leaves the studio, my first half hour, 45 minutes after that is going back through the session and seeing what I could have done better. Was it did I miss something in the sound that we were looking for? And that, even if they're totally happy with it, you're always your own worst critic, or at least I know I am. And I always find something that I go, okay, next time I want to keep an eye on that. Next time I want to try that. I don't want to do that next time. Almost every freaking session.
Yep.
I don't want to say I go as far as second-guessing myself. Occasionally I have. But I like to do a quick reevaluation why things are fresh, but when I don't have the artist sitting here with me. And that way, sometimes I go, no, you know what? What we got today was not only am I happy with, it fit with the artist's vision. Everything's cool. Great. And sometimes I listen back, and even though they were happy, I go, man, note to self on whatever the issue was. And that's just because I try to continue learning and paying attention to that. And I have a lot of fun doing this, but I take it seriously too, because if someone's paying me to work with them, whether I'm just the recording engineer or the mixing engineer, or if I'm producing, they're entrusting me with their music and their vision, and it's my job. They're coming to me because they think I can get that, and it's my job to make sure that happens. So I evaluate everyone. Sometimes I pull things up months later. I go, I'm going to go listen to that again and see how it sits. But you know what? Every day your mood's a little different. One day I'll pull something up and I love it, and I'll listen to it 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh, my God, how the hell did I get away with that? Or I'll call Ernesto and I go, why didn't you tell me that was so bad? And he's like, well, you're nuts. What are you talking about? And I listen to it 2 days later. No, it's pretty good. I'm in a better mood. So I'm pretty emotionally attached to the music and the stuff, so it drives that. I can't always see just with my logical brain, unfortunately. Yeah, I've got... Yeah, Dan, is it the cloud lifter that's causing the clip? Because you can get gain from the cloud lifter. I know I have one of the cloud lifter Z's is the DI, which is a great sounding DI, and it has, I think, 15 and 25 extra dB gain. I usually, for this mic, I may sometimes set that at 15. But I also, the Trident mic pre's have a lot of headroom on them. If your mic pre doesn't have a lot of headroom, mic pre interface, if it's, because it is, you said it was a USB one?
USB interface.
So those are tied together. So those can sometimes, I have heard them, that they get, once you start getting up to that limit where that headroom is, the sound changes there. Things get a little bit crispy, and if you start peaking at that and it gets crispy, yeah, you could have some what they call intersample peaking happening from that, which is dangerous because you can't see it, and even some of the clipping you do have may be causing some of that saturation in that frequency range. And our ears are pretty sensitive in that area too, so we're really going to notice it. I use the Fathead booster with my old SM7. Works great. Yeah. Oh, the Fathead booster. I haven't tried that. Good to see you, John. I got to get one of those things, man. They look pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Here's something if you're having a pad issue with this microphone, you definitely need to figure something out. Because I find myself needing so much extra gain with this no matter what I put it through. So if it's still clipping on your interface, that's something you need to figure out, and it may be time to look at a different interface. I don't know what you're using. Maybe we need to do a interface kind of shootout to go through some of the different options at different price points. So many ideas. But I'm going to grab one thing. Ernesto, tell some jokes in German.
All right. No, the one thing that I can say about interfaces, the USB ones, which are the affordable ones, is you have a price range starting with the Scarlett, which is $100 for the mono, and then $150 for the 2-channel one. It's like those are great to get started, but those USB interfaces, they don't like to get cranked on the input gain, because man, they get hissy, and they start clipping, and it's no bueno, right? So that's why you have interfaces
German, not Spanish,
that charge you, $1,500 for just 2 mic pre's. It's like, how the hell did we go from $150 to $1,500? Well, the analog circuit and the converters are both elements that can go quite up there in price.
Yeah. Okay, this little guy right here. This is an inline attenuator. Here, let me get up close. I had a couple of these made from Niant Audio, Niant, N-Y-A-N-T. I can't remember. He makes good custom stuff, and I didn't want to build these, and they weren't that expensive. This is an 18 dB pad. I got this to work with the Colaris, the Roswell, because that mic, when you're not using the pad, doesn't quite have the headroom for drums and sometimes even guitar and bass and super loud singers. But I love the way that mic saturates on a voice. I like the way it saturates on a guitar too, actually. So I wanted to be able to use that mic without turning the pad on, so I can get that beautiful color that Matt built into that microphone. So I got an inline pad so I can pad that signal down coming into it, which gives me plenty of headroom then to use, and it works fantastic. I use this sometimes even with microphones on drums if the one does not have a pad and I need the headroom. These things work great. I think these were like $15 a piece. I had them within a week. I ordered a couple of them because I have a pair of Colaris, and I just wanted to know I had a few extras laying around because I have some cheap versions of this, and they kind of thin things out a little bit. This one's well made, all Neutrik connectors, and someone who knows how the hell to solder made them. So it works really well. You might be able to try that if you need more headroom on that interface. Maybe try it with one of these to see if that can get it down out of that area that might be clipping or causing some sounds that you don't want. These are one of those things I call these unsexy accessories. That's going to be a video I'm doing sometime. All the stuff that 10 years ago, if you told me I was going to have these adapters and all this crap, I'd be like, what? Some of the things are, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And now I have all this stuff, and it comes in so handy. So you could try this. Thoughts on distant miking on guitars, all of the Queen the Game sound. You know what? I'm going to see if I can get Adam Mosley to join me sometime on this, because Adam did some work with them and has some tracks and has some great insight to that. I love experimenting, first off. I think, ask Ernesto, every session it's like, I want to do something else. Oh, man, come on. But I think it depends on what you're going for. Say metal. Probably not going to do any distant miking there. And I did try on one track on the Blood Feast Ritual that's about to come out. It didn't work. It's just that stuff didn't work. But if you have something like that Queen, or if you have things that are clean sounds, or some of the country stuff I've done, I've had a close mic or two, and then I'll find that spot. I'll walk around and find that spot in the room with the mic that just sounds cool, that adds something. And, man, you can just blend that in instead of reverb and have so much more vibe. And then you have the choice of panning with that. I've done it. This is a cool little trick. If you have something that's not a super distorted heavy guitar, it can be a clean guitar, it could be something that's slightly overdriven, where you pan it to one side. You get a distant mic on it, a room mic of some sort, and you pan that all the way to the opposite side. So it throws across the stereo field like it's throwing across the room. And, man, you can build some beautiful depth in the sound that also has movement in it that's fantastic that way. So I guess the long-winded answer to your question is, yes, I like doing that stuff. Even something I did recently, I think I did this with Bat Farm, where they had tracked a few guitars at home because they had some stuff that they just wanted to spend some time on and not be on the clock at the studio. And we did a lot of reamping of those parts. And I sent it out to an amp, and I put it along the length of the wall, and then I set two mics up in the furthest corners. I had one was a condenser, and the other I think I used a ribbon, or there's a video on it. Go look up the snake recording video for Bat Farm that I did, and I think I go over that in there. And you bring it up so it's stereo, but it was two different mics, and it just made the room sound so different, and that was what we used for all our ambient on those guitars. It was great. So it's cool. You just got to experiment a little bit. But I think it's worth experimenting. When the files you get are way too loud, do you prefer to gain down on the DAW channel or use clip gain? Well, I'm not a Pro Tools guy, so I'm not using clip gain, but I get your question. I usually, depending on where it is, I'll throw the gain plugin on. If I don't want to have the plugins in, sometimes I'll do it in the what's the editor called in Logic, Ernesto? I should know this. I use it every day. The file editor, yeah. I'll do it there. And Logic has its version of clip gain too, but I never use it. I just stick the plug-in on and gain it down and go. I don't know if that's because I've done it that way for a while and I'm used to it. Dan, good to see you, buddy. I hope we see you on some more of these, man. Thanks for all the questions and being a part of this. Fantastic. How would you go about EQing and compressing in the box before hitting the DAW channel? Brennan. Great freaking question. I used to do this back before we got our first console, which was a Allen & Heath. On the, I don't know what DW you're in, and I can only speak for Logic on this. I've never done this in another one. In Logic, you can go into the environment, and there you can see where your actual input channels are, and you can put plugins there and track through the plugins. I know you can do this now with the UAD stuff and all that, and it's way better than doing that. But yeah, I used to do that, and it was what I would do when I was tracking by myself anyway. I would track some drums where I'd get the mics, a lot of play for 4 bars, move the mics, play for 4 bars, move the mics, and I get it as good as I could, going, okay, it sounds really good with nothing on it right now. And then I would go in and I would get my EQ settings to where, okay, now this sounds really good. Then I'd go stick all that stuff on in Logic in the environment on the input. It's called the input channel, right, Ernesto? He's a Logic guru. He knows what everything's called, too. I just use it. And then I would track through them, and those were my sounds. I know with the UAD stuff, the quality is way better now, but you can totally do that. Oh yeah, Daniel, I'll look at that. If that's the single clown lifter, they might be fixed, and that actually might be part of the problem. Just given the headroom you have on your interface as well. Preamp shootout? All right. I know. You're not the first person that asked for that. We'll have to do something. We'll have to figure out a good way of doing it because I'm not going to be able to get 100 pre's in here. So it might be something we have to do in stages. That might be kind of fun, though. Yes, I know there's clip gain in Logic, Michael. Yeah, I never use it. I only never use it because I don't think about it. I'm just so used to going to the gain plugin.
And it's not visual, which sucks.
Yeah.
Pro Tools, it's visual.
Yeah, Ernesto said over here, and it's not visual like it is in Pro Tools, which does kind of suck. But yeah, it works. What's your fave? Audix D6, Shure Beta 52, AK. None of those are my favorite on a kick drum. I guess if I was going metal, the Audix could, but I have an MXL A55 that I like better for that. We used to have a well, it was the 112, right? The D12 is the older one. I haven't used that one in a while. I've never been a huge, this is weird, I've never been a huge Shure Beta 52 fan. But I've heard so many recordings I love that were recorded with the Beta 52, but it's never agreed with me. And in some cases, I kind of thought that's what the Audio-Technica ATM 250 that I use was in the beginning. And once I remember talking to Gary Boss about this one day, because I used it and I never really liked it, whatever. Kind of was like, it reminds me of the Beta 52, which isn't my favorite. And then one day, you get through those, I haven't used that mic in a while. I'm going to just try it today. And I had, for whatever reason, my headspace wasn't that it was some sort of, version of a Beta 52 or B52, and I treated it differently, and it hasn't gotten put away since, and it's just fantastic. And even Gary and I we were laughing about it, because once you stop looking at it like a Beta 52, it's a pretty good microphone. So I would say, yeah, Brian, those mics I don't use too much. The D12, actually, though, I do want to get my hands on one of those, so maybe it's time. Brandon, you're on Logic? Yeah. Love it. Let's see. I'll do that too. Record raw and then process the outboard. Yeah, Michael, that's one way of doing it, especially if you're by yourself. That's why I honestly, man, I don't like playing drums that much anymore. I like having drummers come in and me getting to sit on this side. I can have more fun reacting to their playing and trying to dial sounds in than when I'm having to play. Do I schedule jalapeno? Boy, you're going to make fun of me now. And that's cool. I deserve to be made fun of because I just butchered that. Do I schedule pre-production with your artist? Yes, that's a great question. Actually, I do it with everyone now when I'm recording. Even if we're just coming in to do drum tracks, we have a pre-production call where we go over, we talk about kind of the sounds. Maybe they have some references for me. Maybe they've heard something else. Hey, this thing you did with that artist, we like that kind of drum vibe. That's kind of what we're looking for. Or they'll give me just vague ideas, and then I put something together. If I'm doing more start to finish, I try to be more comprehensive in the pre-production. It depends on budget, time, how many songs we're doing, but there's always some sort of pre-production, even if it's just a single session where we do a phone call where we talk through things and ideas in that way so I can get on the same page. I think that's important, man, because I like having a plan to start with, even if that's just me making an input list going, okay, this is what the artist told me. This is how I'm interpreting what they told me. So I make that list up of microphones, how I might mic something, whether it's guitar, drums, whatever. And then that's my starting point that gets me to a certain area. And then once we hear what's coming back in and I have the artist with me, then we make the necessary changes. But I think pre-production of some sort you got to get on the same page, man. And especially if you're on the clock, the more you do that pre-production, sometimes I'll have them send me rehearsal tapes if I can't go there, and we go through that until it's like, okay, now it's ready. Let's do this thing. Or, hey, make some changes there. Still don't have the performance there. Hey, is that the right length for that? And make that stuff while they're not sitting here, on pressure of time. Yep. You guys, I got to get Chipotle. I'm starving. I need a Chipotle endorsement. Both Ernesto and I want to say thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I know there's a lot of questions. And I think it's awesome, and there's a lot of good ideas from you guys. Whoever's still out there that's on here, if I missed something, I apologize. I know Ernesto was trying to answer some questions too. Please send me a direct message with thoughts, questions, ideas, because I'm putting a list together of all this stuff so we know some things to do for future videos and broadcasts and what type of guests we may want to bring in, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's the goal. So please send me some direct messages because I don't know if I'm going to get to access all these comments once we stop this broadcast. And I want to make sure I don't want to lose anything from anybody. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you're all staying safe. You know, don't be an idiot. Let's get through this sickness and I'll release some killer music. And we will see you soon. I'm going to have a bit of a schedule coming up. I may be doing another broadcast. It seems like we all want to talk a lot. We may do some sort of broadcast on Thursday where it's more just a console round table where we go over things. And then next week I'm going to have Mike Nealon from Ludwig joining me. We'll get some other guitar stuff we're working on. And I've got some new plugins from Trident I want to demo. I'm going to do something with the Heritage Audio successor and some other gear too. There's a lot of gear. So anyway, thank you guys. You rock. Love you all. And please stay safe and go make some music. Bring back the Mohawk. You know what? I actually thought about that. I thought, we're in a pandemic. I might need the Mohawk. I don't know. One day I'll get sick and do it again. All right, guys. Thanks. See you later.